You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Welcome back to Beyond the Wheel. One of the things we enjoy most about RVing is seeing how manufacturers continue to rethink what an RV can be. Every once in a while, a new model comes along that doesn't fit neatly into the categories we've all gotten used to. That's exactly what happened when Winnebago introduced the new Elora. At first glance, it looks like a van. Then you start looking closer and realize it's actually built as a Class C. It has the maneuverability people love about vans, but it also brings some of the interior space and flexibility that usually comes with a larger coach. So the obvious question became, what exactly is it? To help answer that question, Kenny and I sat down with Amy Sheckler from Winnebago. Amy is the product design manager behind the project, and she takes us inside the design process, the inspiration behind the Elora, the unique features that make it different, and who Winnebago built it for. Whether you're a longtime RVer, a van enthusiast, or someone who's just starting to explore the RV lifestyle, we think you'll find this conversation fascinating. So let's talk about the Winnebago Elora.
Hey, Amy, welcome back to the show. For anybody who might have missed your episode with us the first time, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Winnebago?
For sure. So I just celebrated my 5 years at Winnebago, which some days it feels like 20 years and some days it feels like 5 minutes. And since we last talked, I went from a product planner to a product design manager for our quote unquote Hornet team, which is kind of focused on the simple essentials portfolio. So we look at entry level products, very simple, easy entry into the RV market.
Okay. And what are some of the vehicles then that you are kind of over?
So Solus is kind of the poster child to kind of think about what simple essentials is. We just keep it simple, very easy. A lot of our owners are brand new to RVing. Another one is our new Sunflyer that just came out. And then our Travato, as well as kind of what we're going to be talking about here on this episode.
So yeah, speaking of that, you're here with us today to talk about the Elora.
That's correct, yep.
Our first question is it a van or is it a Class C?
Yes, is the simple answer there. It's both and neither. So all the great things about the maneuverability and the size of a B, but some of the things such as like avoiding van ribs and being able to play with the height and the width that we can benefit from with a Class C. So all intents and purposes, if you look at it from a manufacturing standpoint, it is a Class C. It is a cab chassis with a box built on the back. But we know based on how we see people referring to things like the Echo and some of those other smaller Class Cs that the market, be that owners or the dealer or anybody like that, is going to see this as an extension of a van.
Okay. And we'll have some photos in our show notes of what the Elora looks like. So when you're talking about like a Class C or a B, is the simplest way to describe a C anything that's built on a cutaway chassis? Is that what defines a Class C motorhome?
That's correct. Yep. So Class B, if we're going from like kind of your physically smallest originally, like the conventional definitions of these, was a Class B was anything that started as a entirely contained van and everything was built on the inside. Then a Class C starts with the cab cutaway chassis, and then you have frame rails behind that. And then a Class A is going to be anything that does not start with a cab. We build everything on the back of it, kind of like a skateboard chassis.
Okay, interesting. See, I didn't actually know the definition for that Class A, but once you said it, I can picture it because I've seen the frames where they're literally just wheels and a steering wheel, but there's no cab or nothing, no construction on top of it at all. Okay, so that makes perfect sense then.
Yeah, it gets a little fuzzy when you start talking about things like our Rialta, where it's shaped like a van. It's the size of a van, but it actually comes in as a cab chassis. So that's where we get into some of those vernaculars that are manufacturing incorrect, like a B plus doesn't actually exist. That's just for the manufacturers, which is such a small percentage of people who deal with RVs that we start to kind of experience some of these things that come out of the owner demographics of, oh, I have a B plus or a C minus. even though those aren't quote unquote real, we hear that all the time.
Yeah, I feel like that's a marketing gimmick or something that the dealers like to say a B plus. I don't know. I feel like that's where that comes from. I don't think that's actually coming from manufacturers.
Right, right.
What kind of was the inspiration for Winnebago deciding to develop this vehicle, the Elora?
So we've been to Europe a few times and we see all these adorable little campers. As we see like the Echo come into the market, everything's getting smaller and smaller. And we can see that like when we got down to like our pockets where they're only 18-foot long. So we've kind of found almost the diminishing returns on the van chassis, but these Class Cs are getting really popular. And you see over in Europe, these really small little Class Cs that are the size of a bee, because then you can park them in the same spot, but you have those interior conveniences. And so it was kind of a Euro-inspired application where it's like, okay, how can we get the best of both worlds? Everybody wants to be maneuverable. You want to be small until it comes to being on the inside. Kind of like a TARDIS. It needs to be bigger on the inside than on the outside.
And then speaking of size, Amy, are you allowed to I think you are allowed to share some of the dimensions? Like how long is it? How tall is it? Wide?
I can. Yeah. So our length is 20 foot. Our height is 10 feet. And our width is 7.5. And then things like carrying capacity, because that's the other thing people care about. Well, I guess I'll go back to size for a second. So that 20-foot long, 10-foot high, and 7.5 wide, that means that you're going to be smaller than a Travato in length, about the height of a Revel. Your width is no wider than your mirrors on a van. So that parking, you can get into a parking space easily. You can merge traffic easily. You can, for example, Zion really crunched down on some of their size capacities. And this still fits in Zion without, you kind of get your RV conveniences, but those same conveniences a car. So it really balances that line. And then if we talk about weight, because this is the other really exciting part, is that when you look at how you have to do this for things like emissions, they set our UVW, which is unloaded vehicle weight. And that comes down to how heavy the vehicle can be built before it gets sold. So no water, no passengers, nothing. And that's so stringent that in which we did meet, but that's so stringent that it's like, okay, well, what about all that carrying capacity? So you end up with a huge carrying capacity. You end up with 2,223 pounds of carrying capacity. That's a ton, like
That's a
a
lot.
literal ton.
Literal ton.
So by us meeting those strict weight requirements, it ends up becoming benefit to the customer immediately right off the bat. So once you put your 30 gallons of water and your 6 passengers, you still have over 1,000 pounds for your gear, your food, etc.
Yeah, that's incredible. That cargo capacity is just incredible. Just kind of allows you to really kind of think about just what people will be able to carry with them as far as fun things or toys and bikes and things like that. And also the one thing when you're saying dimensions, and people will see this in the photos, obviously, but it's actually a squared off box. So it's really roomy inside. Sabrina and I had an opportunity to take out one of the test vehicles. And that was the thing I think that kind of struck us right away. It's like when you walk inside of it, when you say these dimensions, it still sounds small, but when you're in it, it's really roomy. And I wonder how much of that is the squared off shape to it, because it doesn't kind of concave as it goes up like a traditional van would. You actually have this nice square box that offers a ton of space inside.
Yeah, it's really spectacular. And because I've worked in bees, all the other 5 years that I've been here. And so this is really my first, dipping my toe into the sea world. And it's some things were really cool. Oh, I can have square cabinets finally. But there was other things that was wait a second, I have to think about the wheel well trim.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the big things to make it feel bigger inside, because that's why we go camping, is to experience the outdoors and not be cramped, is all the windows. And I really liked how you and Sabrina said, you step inside and you can actually breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you take, the sidewall length and the back wall, everything that Winnebago adds on, you have 48% of that sidewall length is viewable area. So not just the window frame, but the actual glass in the window, 48% of the length is viewable area, which is huge.
Yeah, and that allows all that outside in, I feel like. And it makes the vehicle feel even larger. Like when you're sitting in a dinette and you're in the back of the coach, you have a great view, kind of like, 180 degrees at least, probably more than that, of your surrounding area. And you're able to take in those views. Like again, that's kind of the reason why you're out there exploring. You want to see as much as you can see, and you can do that with the Allura. Yeah, it was really nice. The inside, the way it's laid out, I didn't even think about what you just said about the cabinets because the box is square and the cabinets are squared, they don't feel as if they are enclosing you or coming down on top of you or in you. That's really smart, and it had a lot of cabinetry and storage space, not just cargo capacity, but actual like usable storage space, which was good too. For such a, I mean, when you look at it from the outside, you're like, it's such a little vehicle, and you go inside, and it's almost like an optical illusion. You go inside, it's like, wait a minute, is this the same vehicle that I was just looking at from the outside? Because it looks huge in here. It's a great trick.
We brought it to Eden Prairie to show some of the other team members when it was the first proto was built. And it was a little cold because Iowa has decided that we don't get summer yet.
Okay.
We had 11 people inside doing a walk around, which 11 people in a van that's shorter than a Travato is insane.
Yeah, yeah. It's really something. I'm looking forward to people seeing this in person, not just listening to us and seeing the photos, but I'm really looking forward. My only complaint is that I probably won't be one of the people like showing this vehicle at shows, but I would love to.
We'll have to see if it appeals enough that we can have one at Overland.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
I don't think we mentioned what chassis it's built on. And then my other kind of part two to that, speaking of the size, is how many people is it designed to like sleep?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So it's on the Ram 3500 chassis. So think like Solus PX or Travato, some of those bigger traditional Ram chassis. And then it's the 159-inch wheelbase, so the longer of the two that Ram offers, but non-extended. So you have a really nice departure angle and you keep that tight 20-foot. And then for sleeping and seating, you have seating for 6. So your cab is 2. And then in the back dinette area, you have 4 lap belts, 2 on either side. And then for sleeping, so the standard is with the bunk. And so you can sleep 4 people. The downstairs dinette converts into a residential queen, a rectangular residential queen. Because my pet peeve is when it's like, you have this cutout or this angle, and I'm like, I need custom sheets or the corner keeps popping off. And then the standard power lift bed is another residential rectangular double bed. So you can easily sleep 4.
Amy, I might be throwing you for a loop here. Is it lighter dry than, say, a Travato or a Revel? Because when I did take it out, it feels incredibly peppy on the road. Like it don't. It's almost like it just like sprints from light to light. And as far as like driving around corners, everything, it has a really good. It almost feels like a little sports car coming, especially from my Vista, my giant Class A. I literally felt like I was driving a sports car most of the time. Is it lighter than some of the other Winnebagos?
I believe it is, but I don't have like solid numbers on that. Just because, again, coming down to that UVW and us building so the vans, they're obviously all metal, and then our sidewall construction is fiberglass, and then foam insulation, and then fiberglass. So I believe that it is, but I don't have the exact numbers to back that up.
Okay, yeah, because even loaded up, once I had my water and my cargo and everything in there, I felt like the vehicle has a really good balance to it. Like I don't feel like the rear is sagging or lifting the front up, and it just felt pretty solid in corners and everything. Like driving around, it was just a great vehicle to drive around. One of the things too that I probably took for granted almost immediately is that you guys don't have propane on board. Can you tell us a little bit about the systems that are inside the Allure? Like what's heating, water, and furnace and stuff like that if there is no propane on board?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that we're seeing, so kind of to explain why we don't have propane in this unit, there are kind of like tagline or motto behind this has been out of the box confidence. We know that it's going to be a lot of people who maybe haven't, whether it's RV'd or camped at all, just this entry consumer who isn't entirely experienced with it. We see there's going to be a big market for it. Maybe not the entire, but a big part of it is going to be, I want to step into this and I just want to go. Me and my family want to go on a trip in 2 days and I'm just picking it up. And so that learning curve, really diminishing that so that it's easy and approachable. And so we looked at, okay, well, LP is great. And it's something that we've used for, forever in motorhomes. But with somebody stepping into it, think about the things you have to do once you take it from that dealer lot. Now you have to go and get food, you have to get sheets and clothes, and whether you bring some of that or have to buy it. And one of those things is fill up your fuel, fill up your water. And if we can take away one more thing that you have to worry about, like filling up LP, going and finding somebody to fill up LP, then that just makes one more step to that approachability. And so with this, we ended up going, the big one is the heater. And so we went to the Truma Combi G. And I'm sure that everybody who listens knows the Combi does air and water. That's why it's a Combi for combination. And the G stands for gasoline. So it all heats off gasoline right from the same tank as your engine. And when I first, because 5 years is a lot, but it's nothing compared to the 10-year at Winnebago. And so when I first started, I'm like, oh my goodness, but like, what happens if I run my heater all night? Am I going to run out of gas? And it's like, no, it's so efficient. I think that the one I camped in it at like 12 degrees without water, because this is a 3-season coach. But I camped in it at 12 degrees and I had the heater just cranked. And I used like less than one of those little nuggets on the fuel gauge. And the other thing that's kind of a safety factor with that is that it won't let you use more than like 3/4 of your gas. So if you're down to a quarter, it will actually turn off the heater so that you don't get stranded. So, and that's common with all of the Truma systems, but the gasoline one is what we ended up picking for this. And then the other factor for LP is your cooking. And so what we went with in this unit was an induction cooktop powered off your standard lithium. And so our Winnebago power system is a 5-kilowatt lithium battery, the EcoFlow battery specifically, running off the 5-in-1 power hub. And when we were looking at that, it's like, okay, well, lithium is like kind of seen as an expensive option.
Mm-hmm.
So what we looked at was, how can we make this approachable so you don't have to worry about LP, but still have it be an approachable price point? And so where we landed was the standard Winnebago power, which is that 5 kilowatts lithium. So enough to take the edge off with the air conditioner, enough to cook breakfast in the morning before generator hours, enough to really manage all of those aspects. And the air conditioner is always going to be your big one. But subtracting the air conditioner, you have a ton of power with 5 kilowatts. So we decided that a really nice area to hit was, it's like, okay, 5 kilowatts is a sweet spot where you're not paying for excessive lithium, but you have enough to be able to do all of those other things you want to do. And then for people who really like to use their power, not only could you expand that system with an additional 2 batteries if you want, and that would have to go through the dealer or what have you, but people could expand that system because it's the EcoFlow system, or they can go up to our LE package, which includes that 2800 RVMP carb compliant generator. And the cool thing that goes with that is that not only do you have this lithium, but okay, I can turn on my generator. So a lot of people will go to campgrounds and have generator hours or be out in boondocking, whether it be BLM land, and just trying to be a little bit mindful of the flora and fauna. So what we decided was, okay, one of the things that we're hearing people like to do is actually run the generator while they're driving so they don't hear it and others don't have to hear it. So we built into the dash to the left of the steering wheel a generator button so you can just start driving and, oh, I'm not going to drive long enough for my alternator to charge my batteries up to 100%. I'm going to quick hit this generator button and just basically boost my charge. It's almost 3 times as much charge if you do it that way. And so that was a way that, okay, without having to pay for big lithium, you get all the benefits of that with a much more entry-level price point. That was a long-winded way of answering that. But
No, you're perfect. That's perfect. I love it.
Is it also capable of solar?
it is. So we have standard 200 watts. And then on the driver's side near the shore power, there's an additional port that you could plug in extra panels.
It also, the battery charges from the alternator as well, doesn't it, Amy?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
About 1,000 watts while you're driving.
1,000 watts an hour. Okay. And then can you go back just real quick? You had said that you could expand the lithium. So the standard power on the system is 5 kilowatt hour battery. What does that expand to? What could you expand it to?
You could add 2 additional 5 kilowatt through the dealer. They would have to go in there and get like the correct harnesses, and you would be foregoing some storage. But some people really just, they're worried about not having enough power. So you could go up to 15 kilowatts and basically have our like Winnebago Power Max at that point and have an insane amount of power.
Yeah. Yeah.
If somebody wanted to pay for it, sacrifice the storage and have their dealer do it. But
This is why you're not in sales. That is not the way you sell that, Amy. Because that is a lot of power. Like that
Yep.
gives you, I mean, pretty like off-grid confidence right there. 15,000 watt battery that charges off the alternator that you already have solar for. The one thing that we're kind of missing here too, again, like as far as a standard package, you guys with that EcoFlow Power Hub, it's a 3.6 kilowatt inverter. That's a just enormous inverter. That lets you run an air fryer and an induction cooktop at the same time.
yeah, it's really crazy because the microwave we have in there is a microwave convection oven air fryer. I'm like, the entire time we're building this, I'm like, we need to have an air fryer because I need to make dino nuggets because I'm 12 at heart.
Yeah. So is that standard also then? That microwave induction air fryer is a standard appliance inside the vehicle?
Yep. So you can microwave convection air fryer.
Microwave convection
Yep.
air
So the
fryer.
convection
Okay.
oven is so you can make cookies, which I also tried. Again,
Yeah.
12. But yeah, that's standard. And that's with having this power with the inverter and everything. I did, because I'm like, I want to try everything. And so I did dino nuggets and cookies. And then I used the induction cooktop because I did like some chicken that same night. Because I'm like, I'm not going to eat all dino nuggets. I'm going to be a little bit of an adult here. Um, and I ran all of that and I still had substantial power. I didn't have to turn on my chassis or my generator or anything. And then I woke up in the morning, made breakfast and heated up my water and did everything and still had power before I rolled out. And so it's 5 kilowatts, like, especially if you're not measuring by your air conditioner usage, is a
Yeah.
significant amount of power.
And that's what I was going to ask you. The test vehicle that you had, was it a 5K battery or did you have the expandable one? You had the
No,
5K.
we just the 5K. Yep, we're just offering that. The expansion would have to be handled by a dealer. It's that same plug and play system. If anybody's familiar with like the Revel, for example, that power hub can accept multiple power banks. So that's not technically an input or an output. It's the storage container itself.
That's great, Amy. I didn't know that it was expanded to that size of battery capacity. In my mind, Sean's a big fan of lithium too. And for me, I'm going with probably either standard battery or even maybe a second battery, nixing the generator. This is just my personal opinion, my personal preference, because I feel like 2 batteries and charging off the alternator at 1,000 watts an hour, that's really good. I'd be totally fine with that. I could easily go without the generator, and yeah, that's the way I'm going.
Yeah, as long as you're okay with the charging rate, that's going to be your biggest kind of barrier there is just
Mhm.
how are you going to charge? If you're going to be charging with your alternator, think about how long your average trip is and are you actually going to drive enough to charge those batteries up?
Yeah, for anybody listening, that's really what it comes down to is your style of traveling. Like I am on the go nonstop. I love to drive. I like to move a lot. Sabrina and I don't camp in one location very long. So like we move every 2-3 days. So yeah, that, 10,000 watts of power with the solar and that alternator, that would keep us at like a very high charge rate, almost all, like we'd be at 80% all the time.
Yeah.
So, but that's a good point. Everybody travels a little differently. And that's great that you guys are offering all these different options.
Well, we're not offering the batteries from Winnebago. We designed it so that it could be if somebody wanted to do that.
The other piece besides power that a lot of people look at right away is the bathroom. And this has sort of a unique bathroom in it, I think it started maybe in the Echo. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we saw so many people. So we hear at the shows, and I'm sure that Kenny, you've heard this too, where somebody, like, usually it's the wife who walks in, just from what I've seen, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, honey, you have to come and see this bathroom." And it's so what it is this European inspired pivoting wall. So a lot of people like all the benefits of having a dry bath, but they don't want to sacrifice that footprint because that's a significant amount of space. And when you're spending what, 5% of your time in the bathroom that you're camping, why sacrifice 20% of your floor plan for it? So it's like, okay, benefits of a dry bath. You don't have to wipe down your toilet. You can leave your toilet paper out. You can have a window, things like that. And so, where this European design came from is how can you do that with the space and the footprint of a wet bath? And the answer to that, or at least one of the answers to that, which was pioneered in the Echo here in the US, is having a pivoting wall. So when it's pivoted to the left, you have a sink on that wall with a mirror, a cassette toilet. And then when you don't need the facilities or when you're using the shower, you can pivot that to the right. And then you have a shower space that has your toilet separated. So you have all the benefits of having a quote unquote dry bath without having to sacrifice the footprint of such.
Yeah, it's a clever use of space. And absolutely, it is always a wow factor at all the shows. And literally, like you said, Amy, I show one person, that person runs out to grab a family member to show somebody else. They're like, look what I just learned. Look, watch this. I mean, it's just a wow factor. I swear a lot of times the bathroom sells the Echo. Like people are so impressed with the bathroom. They're like, I'm buying it just for this bathroom.
I've talked to a lot of customers, especially when I go into like the overlanding space, because people are way more comfortable in that space than maybe some traditional RV markets of like, oh, a spigot, I'll just spray off outside. And that's great usually for like maybe one of the couple, but I've heard more times than not like, oh, my husband or my wife or whoever or my children won't come with me unless there's a bathroom. Or maybe it's like, hey, I can't make it through the night without having to run to the restroom. And so having that facility and not having to sacrifice the space for something that feels a little bit more luxurious than a wet bath is huge.
Amy, are you allowed to share like how long from idea to now where it's on the market, like about time frame wise, how long does something like this to take? And I guess include like your testing and things like that.
Yeah, so I was kind of like looking at this because a few people have asked, like, "Oh, how long does the process take?" And the short answer when I ask, like, just in general, how long does the Winnebago process take, is that is so variable. I mean, because Mark, Brian, and myself, when we start with an idea, I mean, it could literally be like "Hey, I saw this random thing in my dream." And so it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly when it started, but we were looking at this and I had my first like formal email of, hey, we have an idea and we actually think that this has wheels back in March of last year.
Okay.
So it always is a little bit different. This unit, because of how we had things scheduled and how we had the idea and just looking at keeping it pretty simple, it took about 2 years by the time, like, it's hard to pinpoint it because having the formal email, it's like at that point we already had like floor plan ideas and component ideas. And then because we start with, hey, I have this random idea. And then usually like Chris and I will like powwow, like, okay, is this actually something that people would want rather than just like Amy Landia? And it's like, okay, well, yeah, I think that like with this number of seat belts and at this price point, maybe we have to do it on this chassis. And we start to have those kinds of just whiteboard, like sticky note kind of ideas. And then once we have that, we start to kind of like actually build it out. We're like, okay, so do we do LP? Well, I guess we could do LP for the reliability. Well, what about the cost? And we start going back and forth about that. And at a certain point, we decide like, okay, this is beyond us. And we go to some of the more executive and business level where it's like, okay, what do you guys think? Because I mean, they're really the ones who like, okay, yeah, start to spend money on this. We can see a market here. And so when we actually get the go ahead that we're not crazy people, or at least in this regard, then we can actually start to spend money. And one of the first things we do is we start with like mock ups. So they can be as simple as just tape and cardboard all the way up to a full color correct mock up, which we ended up doing for this Elora, is went all the way through where we were using the real materials to see like spacing and how does it fit to like, how does it feel to fit in the bathroom or to pass by somebody when they're cooking. And so those kinds of little more soft sciences can take such a variable amount of time that by the time that we get done with that and we have a solid idea that the bathroom is going to be this size and located here with this water pump, that can be super flexible. And then from there, it gets a little bit more solid to, okay, now we run pilot or prototypes. Now we run pilots. Now we run startup production and engineering meetings and all of the stuff that I get to sit in on, but not necessarily understand.
Okay.
Is there a separate line for vehicles that are being developed? Like, you don't have to interrupt the regular production line to go through all these designs, right? Is it a separate group of people that are doing that from the traditional already built RVs?
Yes and no. It's kind of an interesting because we do have like our model shop and our concept shop that really kind of focuses on that front end design. But there is a certain point where like the people who are actually going to be building this need to have experience with it and need to actually work on building them, because if we had built it all on one line and then migrated it over, so it kind of that comes down to more of a industrial engineer and manufacturing decision, operations decision. But there are places where we can work on ideas without interrupting the production schedule.
There must be tens of thousands of decisions that go into just one product, I would
Oh,
imagine. I
yeah.
would love to. I know you guys don't keep track of that, like number wise, of just how many decisions are made. It's got to be an astronomical amount, I would imagine.
It's wild. There's decisions down to, hey, we have this stitching and we like ran out of this color of stitching and this one is like 2 shades off. Is it okay?
Mm,
And so it's everything from that to fitment of, okay, we like, because we obviously like in every manufacturing facility, there's going to be like gap tolerances. So
mhm.
trying to decide like how big of a gap is acceptable and how do you treat it and what's your tolerance within that margin.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, there's a lot of decision. Oh my goodness, I don't know if that would even be recordable.
I had another question for you, Amy. So the ideas for a new product, do they typically stem from you and the rest of the product team? Does like Winnebago corporate ever come to you and say, hey, this is working really well somewhere for another company? Can we come up with something similar? Or I feel like it's always the other way around. I feel like Winnebago comes out with something and then everybody tries to copy it. But does corporate ever like influence your process as far as coming up with new ideas as and products to come out with?
It's kind of hard to answer just because so the short answer is that I'm sure that there has been, because we get even people who, I mean, a lot of the folks who work at Winnebago are outdoor enthusiasts, like in their off time too.
Hmm.
So we've had ideas, even just like guys on the line who are like, hey, I was wondering if we could, like, what if we did something like this? And that might be, whether in part or in whole, a contribution to another floor plan or another series. We've had ones from owners before, and we've had people who, in some degree of corporate, are like, oh, what if we try this or that? But I wouldn't say that it's, at least in my 5 years of experience, it has never been, hey, here's a whole vehicle that we really like that we would like to do. Can you guys do it? It's usually more of these like sporadic, probably isn't the right word, but ideas here and there rather than whole concepts. And those come from everybody. Like if we go back to kind of the idea of the 36B with that LP container, that came from a gentleman who ran the forklifts here. He's like, hey, like I'm getting a little older. And he's like, even when I was younger, I'm lifting these 20-pound propane tanks off the back of a forklift. And so he's like, what if we tried something like this, like a harness for it? And so it's really awesome to kind of see the contributions from the team because everybody has a specialty. And also, it takes a load off my shoulders. I don't have to come up with every idea. But there's people who it's like, oh no, they've been camping for 30 years and have all these outside experiences that lend to like this conglomeration of a vehicle that we come out with.
Yeah, and I know you guys do a great job of listening to the consumer and implementing changes based on like consumer feedback as well. But yeah, so that's a great answer.
Who is the target for this vehicle, the Elora? I know you said you wanted it to be simple, easy to use. So who were you envisioning the target audience for this?
So, one of our first things when we get into this process is identifying a target audience. And so then we print out what our personas, which is down to where do they shop on the weekends and like what's their favorite food. And we tape those on the outside of our mock-up to kind of keep everybody's minds in like the right space. And so the three that we really identified for the Elora was the cost-conscious newbie, which I kind of had touched on. And that's pretty self-explanatory. But the folks who are, hey, I want to get into RVing, but I don't want to buy something I'm going to have these outstanding payments for the rest of my life. Or maybe I can't afford it. Maybe I'm moving my kids into college here soon. And so we have that cost-conscious newbie who's really mindful of that. They want to get out an RV, but they don't maybe know a lot about it, or they don't want to have the cost that some RVs can incur. And then we also see the family weekender. So the people who it's like maybe they're not going out for super long trips, but they want something that we can go out for a weekend and hang out at the campground and just spend some time together. And that is a very common one. And it kind of crosses into that cost conscious thing because I don't think anybody's going to say that kids aren't expensive to some degree. And so having something where it's like, oh, let's go out and have this on the weekends. It also comes down to that size of the van. So if you're only using it on the weekends, where do you store it during the weeks when the kids are at school and mom and dad have work? And then the third one that we really focused on was the sports enthusiast. So the really cool thing about the Elora is that she has 2 bench seats in the back. And those bench seats not only fold down to that residential queen we had talked about, but they actually pivot up and you have a 5.5-foot by 5-foot gear garage space. So if you have that power lift bed, there's your bed up there and you can pull in tons of bikes or stand-up paddle boards. And so we really looked at that sports enthusiast and how can we kind of attend to their needs as well.
Yeah, I think this is going to do really well with that sports enthusiast. I think of my nephew who played like travel hockey, and my brother would drive him not just all over town, but sometimes out of state even for his hockey games. And I think this vehicle, something like this, where his giant hockey bag could sit back there, the hockey sticks could be back there. They could travel out of state for a game and have a secure place, not only just to sleep, but make all your meals and stuff like that. I think this could be really popular with just sporting event type of consumer.
For sure. I mean, the size of basically a Suburban, and you have bathroom facilities, cooking facilities, all in the same space.
Yeah, and Suburbans are pretty pricey nowadays. So you might not even be that far off, to be honest with you, in pricing. I mean, any type of truck or vehicle like that is pretty pricey nowadays.
Yeah, for sure.
My last question for you is that you said it was a 3-season RV. So what are the temperature ratings for it?
So we say right above freezing. But if I get a little bit, because I can't answer anything in short form, the reason that so looking at the decisions was okay. That sports enthusiast side and the flexibility of being able to have a gear garage space in the back. It was okay. Where do we put our water tanks? It's like, okay, well, we want this to be easy to drive. We want to be able to have sporting equipment in it. And so we basically got to the point where, okay, we can try to be everything for everyone. But at the end of the day, this is a Ram ProMaster. It is front wheel drive. Let's hit really good in our weight class. Let's hit 3 seasons as hard as we can hit 3 seasons and just do a really good job at that. And so we put the tanks outside. And so that's one of the reasons, Kenny, when you're talking about the maneuverability and the handling, is that when you have that 30 gallons of water filled up underneath the belly of the van, you have a really low center of gravity. So it really sticks to the road well. By having them underneath the unit, that says, okay, well, now freezing temperatures can get to it. Down to like 33 degrees, you're good. But once you hit 32, you risk freezing. However, our galley is actually sized, the middle register of doors is sized for potable water. So whether that be bottles or jugs of water, you can just bring that with you. When I drove it out, because it got finished, the prototype got finished in the middle of winter, and we wanted people to go and test it because that's one thing that we don't want our first owners in it to be beta testers. We want the beta testers to be before it ever even hits start of production. We're like, okay, we need to get this somewhere south so that we can get people in it and start testing, unless we want to wait till release, which we never want to do. And so I'm like, I'll drive it down to Utah. For me, it was like about 12 degrees when I was camping in it, which was great, except it's like, okay, now I can't have water in it, which I understand. But what do we need water for? Shower. Okay, well, there's other places to shower, like truck stops and campgrounds or friends' houses. And then the toilet facility is like the other big one. And it's a cassette toilet. So that's actually contained inside of the body of the van. So I had a jug of water to flush my toilet and didn't freeze because it's inside of the unit. And then I had potable water bottles so that I could drink water. And so even though it's 3 seasons, which is really defined by the water storage, there are ways that somebody could extend their camping. I mean, if your grandparents live in Florida and the family lives in Minnesota, you can go and visit the grandparents and maybe you miss that winter freeze by a day. Just empty your water tanks and carry potable water with you and you're good to go.
Amy, what are you most excited about for this vehicle, the Elora, getting into the customer's hands? Like, what is something that gets you excited about the vehicle?
So when we first did we had a dealer kind of showing of this. And when we did that, I'm literally sitting there. I'm like, I can't wait for the first owner meetup. I know not a single owner even knows about this yet, but I can't wait for the first meetup. And I think that the kind of the more specific aspect of that is seeing how people like actually use them. Because I'm sure you guys have seen in like the Travato world, it's very common, really all the vans. But the mod culture and how people actually modify that for their specific use case, I'm so excited to see like how people take this and like yes and it.
Nice, nice.
Well, Amy, I think that's all of our questions. Is there anything you'd like to add before we let you go that we might have missed?
Okay, so there is one more thing that I want to add. This is kind of the options that we're going to be offering. The first one is our exterior. You have a choice from 3 different exteriors. The first one we looked at was doing a neutral, which we figured like this is the one that'll probably appeal to the broadest market, which is cool gray. And then we wanted to do a step into something a little bit warmer, maybe not too loud, something that has a little bit of personality without being like, yeah, loud is probably the best word. And that one's called mahogany. And that's kind of like a reddish brown, very earthy tone. And then we have one that's aquamarine. So that's the one where it's like, I have personality and I want to tell you I have personality. Then inside, the standard is with that residential double power lift bed that we talked about. But if you don't want that because maybe you want a little bit more storage or you don't need the extra sleeping, maybe it's going to be a daily driver, you can actually option to delete that and get the U-shaped overheads. So that one, you'd still have the residential queen on the bottom that's like a conversion of your dinette, but then you get a little bit more of that overhead storage for clothing or anything that you might need to bring. And then the only other option you can get is we have an upgrade package, which I think I alluded to when we were talking about the generator. Standard, again, you have that 5 kilowatts of lithium, but you can upgrade to our LE package, which includes the 2800 carb compliant generator, a Girard awning, and leather cab seats.
Hey, you guys are actually putting a lot of, I would say, nice appliances in here. Like Truma is, I feel like, high end. Girard awning is also high end. Lithium battery standard. I mean, this is a really nice coach that you guys are putting together for really everybody.
That's what we were hoping for, trying to get the ones that made sense, those touch points, the ones that we see people either adding themselves or really asking for, and hoping that we did a good job on that.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool.
And where can people find the vehicle at? Is there like a walkthrough on the website or anything like that available?
So there'll be photos on the website, and I think our floor plan is on there. Our dealers have gotten them now, so if somebody wanted to go and look at a dealership, they'd be able to see that. I don't know what our marketing team has out as far as videos right now, but as far as like the kind of preliminary photos and all of that, that's on our website here. So
And I'm sure the first people that have it will put out tons of YouTube videos
I'm
showing
sure.
the inside and what they're doing to as far as mods, like you had mentioned.
I'm excited to see how quick it takes to have like a new owners and wannabes Facebook page. We'll do over-under bets.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today to talk about this new vehicle, and we're excited to see how it does. So we look forward to seeing the success.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. I can't wait to see how everybody likes it.
We want to thank Amy for joining us again and giving us a behind the scenes look at the development of the all new Elora. It's always fascinating to hear how these ideas go from a sketch on a whiteboard to a vehicle that people can actually take on adventures. I think one of the biggest takeaways from today's conversation is that the Elora really occupies a unique space in the RV market. It combines maneuverability and the ease of driving that people love about camper vans with the cargo capacity, the storage, and interior space that are traditionally found in larger motorhomes. Whether you're a first time RVer looking for an approachable way to get into the lifestyle, or an experienced traveler who wants something compact without sacrificing comfort, the Elora is definitely worth a look. If you'd like to learn more about the Elora, be sure to check out the photos and links in our show notes. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with a fellow RVer. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you on the next episode of Beyond the Wheel, which just happens to be another driver's edition.